Hi everyone, thanks for dialing in. I see that there's quite a few people still trying to dial in, so let's just give them a minute or two and then we can get started. Thanks for waiting. All right, I think we can get started. So first of all, dear participants, good morning to those of you who are waking up early, good afternoon and good evening. So for those who don't know me, my name is Ling. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at I4E. And I'd like to welcome you to this webinar, and it's part of our Innovation for Electrification series, also known as I4E. So what is this series? It's a series that we created to bring our members one step closer to potential collaborations by giving them the opportunity to showcase their products and solutions. And today's webinar is special. It's the first time we're hosting it under our new name. So we're called now the Alliance for Renewable Electrification. And for those of you who were with us at the Energy Access Investment Forum in Kenya in April, we announced our rebrand there. So what does that mean now? It means that we continue and we expand from our foundation in rural electrification, energy access, and productive use. And now we also cover commercial and industrial off-takers, as well as integrated grids and utility projects. So with that, I'm happy to kick off the second edition of the I4E series of 2026 on commercial and industrial electrification, also known as CNI. And some of you might have noticed if you're subscribed to our newsletter or follow us on our website, we also launched a newsletter on the same themes. And there's also some articles on CNI projects from our members. So be sure to check it out there. It's available on our website and if you're subscribed to our newsletter. So as I mentioned, today's webinar focuses on CNI electrification. It's an important electrification in developing countries because we see that it provides three main benefits. The first being that it cuts down on operating costs and shields businesses from fossil fuel volatility. Second of all, it also builds local generation and distribution capacity, thereby strengthening energy resilience where national grids are either unreliable or absent. And last but not least, it can directly drive energy access. So in Africa, where there's still 585 million people, and in Asia, where there's 128 million people that still don't have access to electricity, CNI renewable projects can also help, can be a good opportunity to close that gap. So that can be done through models like the Anchor Business Community approach, also known as ABC, where one single project can help power both a business and surrounding households. So with that, I wanted to present the agenda for today, as you can see on the screen. So we've got 6 members with us here today to explain their projects and solutions that my colleague Carlos will introduce in a moment. So we'll be hearing from Robert from 24/7 Solar, Naeem from Defer Community Power, Liam from Grips Energy, Annette from Sawa Energy, Jason from TRRC, and Nzala from Opia Technologies. For your information, the session is recorded and will be made available on the ARI website. And if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat with the name of the speaker you'd like it to be addressed to. If we can go to the next slide. So for those of you who don't know us, ARE is the Global Business Association working to enable private sector driven renewable electrification in emerging markets. We bring together 170 members operating across 55 countries, all having a combined turnover of 58 billion euros. We also partner with 40 international, regional, and national bodies, and we have just over 62,000 subscribers across our networks. These are the ARE pillars, and as I explained earlier, ARE is made up of three pillars. So that means that we expand from rural electrification, energy access, and productive use. So that's pillar one. And now we expand to powering commercial and industrial off-takers and integrated grids and utility projects. And thanks. What makes ARE unique? What makes us unique is that we are renewable energy technology agnostic. So that means that our members work across all technologies, whether that's bioenergy or hydro, wind, power components, solar to hydrogen. We're also system size agnostic. So our members work on grid connected, standalone, and mini grids powered by renewables. And our members also work actively in emerging markets, so Africa, Asia, and Latin America. If we can go to the next slide. So what we deliver, so we have four main services that we offer, and our mission is to support private sector driven markets. And the first service that we offer is market development. So whether that's industry action, whether that's being part of our ARE circle or policy engagement. The second being business development. So whether that's deal facilitation, matchmaking, or market intelligence. The third is capacity building. So that's really building up the skills and the workforce of tomorrow. And last but not least, it's communications and marketing. So we're really here to help to amplify your marketing needs or have tailored visibility for your company and brand. So yeah, in case you have any questions or you'd like to know more about our services or thinking about joining the family, feel free to reach out to us after the webinar. And with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague Carlos. He'll be facilitating the rest of the webinar. And I wish everyone a nice, insightful exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ling, for the introduction. And hello, ladies and gentlemen, all the people joining from all across the globe. My name is Carlos. I'm the Business and Market Development Associate at ARE. And as Ling mentioned today, I'll have the pleasure of being the moderator of this webinar. As Ling mentioned, it's a very special edition, the first one after our rebranding, and also covering CNI, that is one of the topics of focus for ARE nowadays. Today with me, I have a panel of experts that will be showcasing their projects, their solutions, their products, all of them related to CNI, but with very different perspectives. And yeah, before we start, just a couple of remarks. The first being, dear speakers, you'll have 8 minutes for your presentations, so please try to stick to the time. Why? Because we will have a Q&A panel after the presentations, and we need to have enough time to cover all the questions possible. Thank you for that. For the audience, dear audience, GoToWebinar, the platform we're using today, has a question and answer feature. So please make sure that you ask your questions using this system. We really encourage you to be active, engage with the speakers. Please mention to which speaker you are asking your question to, and then during the Q&A panel, I'll be happy to be redirecting the questions for you. Having said that, now I have the pleasure of introducing the first speaker of the day. That is Robert Garrett. He is the CCO of the member 24/7 Solar, joining us representing the company in the US. active in multiple sectors and industries like mining and some others that Robert will be showcasing in a moment. So yeah, Robert, very happy to have you here. And the floor is all yours for the next 8 minutes. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you, Ling. You can go ahead and skip to the next slide, Carlos. I'll start there. Um, but for everybody's edification, what 247 Solar does, we provide an integrated platform to provide baseload renewable power and industrial heat for mission critical customers. And the company was started and founded out of technology developed at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and specifically designed to address some of the challenges with conventional renewable solutions such as solar PV, wind, and battery storage. Obviously, with solar PV and wind, you've got intermittency issues. We found that even when those are firmed with battery storage, that battery storage becomes uneconomical once you exceed a 4-hour storage requirement. Essentially, each incremental hour tends to go up exponentially in cost instead of linearly in cost. So what we're really designed for are industries or utilities that require 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 days a year, baseload dispatchable load following power with the added benefit that our system actually generates waste heat that can be used to drive industrial processes. We can support temperatures of close to 1,000 degrees Celsius for industrial heat applications. And a unique attribute of our system is that it serves as its own backup because our turbines, which in standard operation just combust ambient temperature hot air, can actually be configured to burn conventional fuels for firming purposes, so essentially serve as their own backup. You can go ahead and skip to the next slide, Carlos. Carlos, can you advance the slide one?
Hi, Robert. We cannot hear you.
Sorry about that, Carlos. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So our system basically has a few key components that we've developed some intellectual property around. The first is a solar receiver that collects the power of the sun that's harvested by a solar field and converts that to ambient pressure heat air at very high temperatures. That heat air then gets run through a proprietary turbine technology that allows us to combust that to produce electricity and process heat. And then from a storage perspective, we store that in ceramic pellets, which are virtually indestructible and maintain temperatures over very long periods of time and give the system the ability to dispatch power even when the sun isn't shining. That thermal storage system also has several benefits in terms of longevity. So our rated asset life for our plants is about 30 years and has very little to no performance degradation from year 1 to year 30. If you could advance to the next slide, please, Carlos. So this is kind of a representative use case for us. We look at a lot of off-grid applications. And so here you see a mining application, and our system has a modular design where we can essentially scale the system according to the customer's needs. So we have a plant that generates for each module up to 3 megawatts of electrical capacity and up to 4 megawatts of thermal capacity. We can deploy this in a grid-tied fashion, but as I said, a lot of our focus is on off-grid applications where, due to utility constraints or prevailing power prices or the remote nature of where these assets are located, they have very high reliance on things like diesel generators. So we give them the opportunity to decarbonize a dirty power supply. And we also give them the ability to decarbonize the industrial processes for their various thermal applications. You can go to the next slide, Carlos.
Also, Robert, if you can
This
turn
is,
on your camera because we cannot see
oh,
you.
oh, sorry about that. Having some internet issues here, unfortunately. This is a representative system configuration for how our plants work. You'll see a graphic for one of the modules level and a cylindrical tank to the side. You see the thermal storage system. But essentially, we have a hybrid design where for daytime operating hours, we do use the benefit of conventional solar PV because it's the lowest price of power generation during daytime operating hours. While that solar PV is providing power during the daytime, our solar thermal plant will serve to use the power of the sun to charge that thermal storage system through that central tower that you see on the left-hand side. And it provides two outputs: power that can go either directly to the customer facility or in some cases go to the grid, and it can provide heat that goes to support a variety of process applications that might be in use in a customer environment. So you see things like drying or curing, which are very common in the mining industry to treat the various minerals and ores as they're processed. You'll see absorption chilling there. That's a use case that we're really investigating heavily in the data center environment because we can actually use our waste heat to drive absorption chillers and reduce about 20 to 30% of the electrical load that would be required to operate the data center in the process, which gives them a tremendous opportunity for savings. You can go to the next slide, Carlos. So one thing that's interesting about our model is that it's a 100% zero CapEx model. So essentially, we will design, engineer, build, own, and operate the asset on the customer's behalf at no cost to them. We structure this on longer term power purchase agreements, so 15, 20, 25-year power purchase agreements. And it basically removes all upfront capital risk from the customer, and we are contractually obligated to operate that asset for the lifetime of that contract tenor and provide them with all of the power and the heat generated by our system up to a certain service level agreement. And as part of the development process, if you can skip to the next slide, Carlos, I'll kind of talk to the way that we typically engage with customers as part of the power purchase agreement and project phasing that goes into our. So I'll speak to the next slide in advance. Basically, we start with a preliminary analysis for customers where we engage collaboratively with their stakeholder teams to fully understand both their energy and heat requirements as well as their overall operations. So and how our solution best fits into part of this. We will generate an individual proposal for the customer, a techno-economic analysis that shows them how much power we can provide, how much heat we can provide, the ways that that can be within their operating environment, and then the economics for what the cost of that heat and power will be over a long-term, 15, 20, or 25-year contract tenor. And then we own the responsibility to operate that asset for the life of the plant. Past that preliminary analysis phase, we tend to look to secure term sheet agreements with our customers, which, while they're non-binding, gives us the justification that we need to invest the engineering resources to fully develop the project to where it's bankable and buildable. So that's when our team would go out and secure the funding to get the project built. We would go out and work with EPC partners to get the technology deployed. And the general time frame to deploy one of our plants is going to range anywhere from 12 months on the low end, based upon the size and location of the project and various permitting requirements that would go into that, to about 24 to 36 months on the high end for particularly large or complex projects. And Carlos, if you can move to the slide that has the various use cases. I think it's 2 slides past this one. Could you move one more slide down, Carlos, please, in the interest of time? So these are kind of representative use cases that we commonly run into. So I mentioned that we're doing a lot of remote and off-grid work. You see that a lot in the mining sector in particular, because a lot of these resources are extracted from very remote parts of the world. Mines are also very interesting in that they tend to use a lot of dirty power resources for their operations today. So we give them the ability to decarbonize their operations. They also tend to face limited or challenging utility requirements, either due to cost or due to the remoteness, just the ability to interconnect the size of their loads. And finally, process heat has been something that's been notoriously difficult for them to decarbonize, and we give them the opportunity to start their journey down that path. Energy intensive industries, data centers are really a critical focus right now. You see, particularly with hyperscalers, having a challenge in getting the power that they need to support their plants. We give them the ability to provide a base load following renewable resource, plus, as I referenced earlier with the absorption chilling, the ability to tackle that side of the ledger as well to really reduce total operating cost. And then the other thing would be kind of combined heat and power use cases that you might see in desalination plants, green hydrogen, or other heavy industries that would be applicable to our technology. And Carlos, if you can skip to the final slide, which is the old versus new CSP. So I'll speak a little bit to some of the things that we've done in the solar thermal space that have really kind of iterated in advance what is a proven technology that's been deployed at multiple gigawatts of scale globally, but has had some challenges. So conventional, what we call CSP plants, used molten salt or other corrosive materials for storage. They operate using steam turbines, which require on-site operators and also obviously water. We've created a much more modular approach that works not using water or steam turbines, but uses high pressure air and combusts that ambient air, so there's no water required for the operation of our plants. It also uses ceramic pellets as the storage medium, which are much less corrosive, much more reliable, and much more available than molten salts are. So that's kind of a high-level summary of what we do. I would highlight that, again, we're focused on mission-critical operations that need to operate continuously throughout the year and can take advantage of both our power and heat that's delivered from our system. But I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak to this group today. Carlos, thanks for navigating the presentation, and apologies for any gaps in my internet this morning, but very much appreciate the time and happy to answer questions during the Q&A if anybody has them.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Yeah, indeed, super interesting. No worries about the network. It worked mostly well. And yeah, very nice to see the plant solution. Very interesting and very different from what the other speakers will showcase, I believe. So yeah, very innovative, and thank you for that. Dear audience, please make sure that you ask your questions regarding Robert's presentation on the chat, and I'll be happy to. We will answer them during the Q&A later today. Now I have the pleasure of inviting Naim Ode to speak. He's a director at Differ Community Power, in this case, a developer based in Norway, but active in multiple countries, especially in Africa. Very well known for the healthcare electrification, school electrification, but also some other industries, as Naim will explain right now. So thank you, Naim, and over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. Thank you very much, and nice to be with you. I will try actually to summarize the things just to take benefits of the 8 minutes and not to exceed them. So I will try to walk you quickly and summarize the things about Differ Community Power, about who we are, what we do, and what we can do for CNI and other applications. We are DCP, Differ Community Power. We are part of Differ group that is based in Norway with headquarters in Oslo. We are operating in different countries, in developing countries, mainly in Middle East and Africa. So far, we have more than 400 installed systems in Middle East and Africa, and they are fully operational now for schools, health centers, with collaboration with international organizations like UN, UNICEF, and other international organizations. What we do, actually, we we design and install solar systems with the storage, and we also propose and install hybrid systems where other source of power are available. Also, Carlos, if you just zoom in, I think part of the slide is not shown. The bottom one. Okay.
My colleague Okan is presenting. Okan, can you try to
okay,
come in?
I'm
not sure.
I will try. Yeah, I will try, but I just need to make sure it's clear for audience. I can zoom in from my side. Yeah, so for us, we supply solar and storage systems and hybrid systems where other power supply or power systems are available. Also, we supply full turnkey solutions from A to Z for EPC solutions. And recently, we started a CNI initiative. We focus on growing economies and mainly in areas and countries where we are operating and where we have access to the markets and the local systems and situation there. If you move to the next slide. Yeah. So why CNI and why we started this initiative? First of all, CNI applications in general for the countries where we operate and in growing economies, the loads that are connected to the grid, 60 to 80% of them are for CNI. So they are a big part of the local electric loads there, and also they are most exposed to the outages. So whenever there is a grid outages and non-availability of power, they get affected as they have their continuous costs. Their revenues will be affected, and also the local economy. For renewable energy and solar systems, they have an attractive and fast payback when they consider them compared with the other traditional power energy sources. Also, this is important for them that supports the CNI for growth and for future plans when they have stable power supply and power availability. And next, please. Yeah. For power, there are a lot of problems and a lot of issues based on our experience, especially as mentioned by being operational there in these growing economies and countries. But for us, we are focusing mainly on the three major problems that are common in most of these countries. First one is about the grid outages. That means when the grid is not there, or when the grid is available, but it is out for some time, from time to time. The other problem, or the other case, is for the applications where the customers are fully diesel dependency. Where they depend only, or mainly, or the major of their time, they depend on diesel as their main source of power. The third point is about the unstable power. That means when the grid is available, but it is not stable, with high fluctuation. And in the next few slides, I will talk more about these problems. If you move to the next one, please. So for the grid outages, based on the general record, it is an average of 6 to 12 hours where the grid is available. In the countries that have a problem with the grid availability, it is available, but it has an outages with an average 6 to 12 hours. It depends on the country, it depends on the local situation there. This number is not small number, especially when it comes to CNI, where there is factories, where there is a production lines, there is employees there, logistics, and other stuff related or linked to these industries directly. So 6 to 12 hours will cause high interruption in the production, and also the customers will end up with covering a lot of fixed cost, while their revenue is being decreased because of the grid outages. And also this affect the other mentioned points for the local economy, and so on. Can you go to the next, please? The second point is about diesel, and we hope that one day we reach a point where we don't use diesel generators at all. But unfortunately, like for this time, it's still not reached. We still need diesel generators to be used as a backup for most of the systems and as a standby. But for us, we try to eliminate using them as a main source of power. This is because of different reasons. The most important one, which is the cost, and especially for the last few years, because of unfortunately the ongoing wars in Middle East and in Ukraine, the diesel prices increased in some countries even more than triple than it was a few years ago, and this caused big issues and big problems, especially when it comes to CNI application. The other point is about logistics, especially in the countries where they have poor infrastructure, and it is difficult to get the diesel supply continuously. The third point is about maintenance, spare parts availability, and so on. So by time it became a headache for the customers and for the users. The last and also important point is about the environment. This includes the noise, the vibration if it is close to residential applications or industrial area. Also the CO2 and the emission issues. Can you move to the next slide, please? The last point actually is a very critical one. The previous ones are important for sure, but this is very critical and tricky, because this point or this issue highlights an important case that we witnessed in some countries where the grid is available, but it's fluctuating. And just to mention, around 80% of the loads around the world are very sensitive when it comes to the fluctuation, and they have a limited window where they can operate. And it's about voltage, about frequency, and about the this deep fluctuation will it end up burning sensitive machinery, especially when if it is about the precision industries. Can you move to the next, please? Yeah, for us as a DCB, we work for a full turnkey solutions from A to Z. We collect the data, we collaborate with the customers, we build, we design systems, and we provide a solution that solves the problems and highlighted in the previous slides and other problems. We focus on supplying a continuous power 24/7 to the customers and stable power where there is no fluctuation. And the third one, we reduce the operation costs for the customer compared with the other source of power energy. Can you move to the next? Yeah, so for CNI and the impact for CNI, when they have a stable continuous power 24/7, so they will be in a position where they can plan for expanding their production and having more production lines, maybe also an advanced machinery. This will create more jobs, which has direct impact on the local community. Also, it has a community support by having such active industries and more products produced locally and collaboration with the local authorities. And the last point is about cleaner energy, less emission, and more environment-friendly solutions. Can you go to the next? And for the last point, I mentioned in the previous slides, the solutions that we provide in growing economies and for the countries where they have a grid issues and a grid availability. But in addition to this, we do supply and provide systems and solutions for countries that have a stable grid, and we mainly support and help our customers for mainly 2 points. First one is for peak shaving, and the second one for the tariff management, especially when there is a different applied tariff. So we integrate our system with the grid, where we decrease the energy consumption at the time when there is high tariff, and we prioritize using solar and batteries when the grid is high. Sorry, I tried to summarize it because of the time to give a chance for other speakers and other colleagues. Yeah, so that's it. I hope that I covered most of the things, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Naim, for the great presentation and also for flagging all the challenges. I'm pretty sure some viewers will relate with challenges flagged by Naim, so we encourage you to get in touch with him and his team to see what are the reliable solutions available. Now, I invite the next speaker of the day. If we can go to the next slide, I have the pleasure of presenting Liam Gerding. He's the CCO of Grips Energy, one of the latest members of I4E, based in Germany, active in many countries as well. He will be showcasing some case studies and real projects developed by Grips and his partners, and joining us from Abidjan today. So thank you, Liam, for being here, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Thanks for the introduction. Grips Energy, yes, welcome from my side. My name is Liam Gerding, as Carlos mentioned. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Grips Energy. And Grips Energy, we truly believe that in order for African industries to grow, they need to have reliable, cheap, and also sustainable electricity supply. And for that matter, Grips kind of finances, operates, and also operates renewable energy systems for businesses in the commercial and industrial sector by taking up the upfront kind of capital cost, by taking also the technology cost in order to reduce the energy cost of industries in Africa. Next slide, please. So I think the challenges, and we talked about it, or some of my kind of colleagues talked about this before, but the energy challenges that we are basically seeing for industries across the continent is the high cost of electricity. If the kind of grid electricity is expensive, but also if it becomes even higher if there's cost from diesel generators. Of course, there's also like an increasing volatility in the prices. I think all of us know this from the recent kind of geopolitical tensions. And again, kind of power outages and downtime due to the unreliability of a supply becomes like a real headache for industries to operate. At the same time, all of that leads to a situation where kind of the energy consumption is really kind of carbon intense. So for a lot of industries in the ground, this becomes a challenge. All of it leads to reduced competitiveness. So there's like an increased inefficiency in operating kind of these industries. On the other hand, like next to the challenges, of course, the barriers to renewable energy is limited access to financing. Then again, there's also like for some off-takers, there's the fear of having technology complex system. And of course, you know, for some, they don't want to take the headache of the maintenance. There's a lack of in-house expertise because, of course, usually all the industries, let's say a tea farmer, he's an expert in tea farming, but he doesn't really want to become also an expert in operating a PV system. And also procurement and installation process, of course, needs to be addressed because sometimes this is a challenge as well. At the same time, they have uncertainty in technology choices. So, you know, I think there is a lot of technology advancements that we've seen in recent years related to PV and also to battery technologies. But of course, this also creates a little bit of uncertainty with finding the right technology at the right time. Next slide, please. So the solution that Grips Energy provides is really to have on-site renewable energy as a service. And depending on the local regulation, that could be a PPA, that could be a lease, or that could be a rental agreement. We really focus on agricultural off-takers and commercial and industrial off-takers. Usually the systems that we finance, they start from an investment volume of, let's say, above 300K. Up to, you know, and I think in today's kind of pricing, let's say this could be 500 kilowatt peak of solar up to 5 megawatt as a soft kind of upper end. The contract lengths that we typically sign, they are between 12 and 20 years. On average, you could say this like 15-year contract. So they are rather kind of long contract, long offtake agreements. But of course, this also allows us to offer considerably savings to the offtakers. The solutions, they could be kind of grid-tied PV. It's also a hybrid system. So if, you know, more related to fuel saver, if the power comes from diesel generators, of course, we also are very much interested in financing battery solutions. They could be on-grid, they could be off-grid. Of course, also a combination of PV and battery solutions very much possible. Next slide, please. I think really the core of our implementation and our operating model is to have powerful partnerships for clean energy solutions. So we work together very closely with EPC and O&M partners in the country that do kind of the procurement and the logistics, and they are also responsible for the engineering, installation, and the construction of the PV and battery plants. We also kind of contract them to do a maintenance agreement, and that usually is the EPC, but of course also sometimes it could be a specialized O&M partner who does the maintenance system. At the same time, Grips kind of remains the owner and kind of works also together with the EPC to optimize the system techno-commercially, but also to do a bit of contract management. And of course, after the commissioning of the system, we are also the asset manager, and we provide kind of the project financing throughout the project lifetime. Next slide, please. Just to give a brief kind of overview of the target markets and the teams. So at the moment, we're focusing on 4 focus markets. So there is kind of in West Africa, Senegal, and the Ivory Coast. I'm at the moment in Abidjan. I'm calling from here. And of course, we have Kenya, Uganda, and also Zambia as a focus market. And then there's other markets such as Botswana, Tanzania that we look at a bit more kind of opportunistically. If there is good projects that come our way, we of course would be happy to finance them, but we don't regard them as a focus markets for now. Please, next slide. So I think the team, as you can see here, we are kind of, the departments we have is of course the investment, finance and legal. Then there is the project development, implementation and the asset management, and also the business development team. So we are very much kind of focused on having a team on the ground that knows the local legislation, but of course also has a good understanding about the market and the relevant connection to the industrial off-takers, as well as to our partners, the EPC and the O&M contractors. At the same time, you can tell, of course, that this is a rather really focused team. It's a lean team that also gives the benefit of getting an answer or a response to a request really fast. So you don't need to worry that it has to go through a tremendous amount of procedural steps before you get an answer to an inquiry. For example, if you need an offer to finance a PV system. Next slide, please. Yes, I just wanted to give you some examples of projects that we already kind of financed. So this is the first project that was commissioned actually in 2018. It's that's 99 kilowatt peak of PV and 127 kilowatt hours of battery. This is for Rivonia in Zambia. He's one of kind of the market leaders for food products and has around kind of 80 types. Some of them are really spicy, so you have to be a bit careful if you try them. But I think for them, the real focus was to reduce their diesel kind of cost, because as you know, in Zambia at the moment and also in previous years, there was always periods where ZESCO, the national utility, wasn't able to provide reliability, so they had to rely a lot of their diesel generators, and also the location of the facility kind of made them exposed to a lot of power quality issue. And of course, for them, this was a huge burden for their operational machinery. So they are kind of able to save a lot of money, not only from reducing the energy cost, but also having better power quality at the site. Please, next slide. This the next project, Kachima, is like 600 kilowatt peak and 800 kilowatt hours of battery storage. This was commissioned in 2022. It's based on a 10-year lease agreement. Here again, we kind of built the system together with a local EPC that now also does the O&M. The solution kind of helped them to reduce their energy cost by around 20%. And of course, they also have the reliability of supply, given that this is a PV and a battery solution. Next slide, please. Yes, the other reference project I wanted to talk about briefly is the 600 kilowatt peak for a project in Senegal. So this is actually based on a 15-year lease to own contract that we commissioned in 2022. I think what was very important, of course, for the off-taker SCL was to reduce their energy costs, but at the same time also show to their customers, and these are mainly kind of they export vegetables to the European continent, is to show them that they're reducing their carbon footprint. So for them, the motivation was first to reduce energy costs, but at the same time also reduce the carbon footprint. Next slide, please. I've got the message that I have to wrap it up. So we can go a bit faster here. The B3 project, 500 kilowatt peak. I think for me, what I like about it is that, of course, it's PV, but there we also included an EV charger. So I think it's always good to keep up with the latest trends in technology, and also we provide the flexibility that we can also finance such additions as they make sense to operate the PV system. And the last kind of two projects I wanted to show, these are tea farms in Uganda that also been implemented on a 20-year lease agreement together with our local EPC partner. And I think the second project there, it's been a bit challenging because it was actually mounted on not a ground mounted, but it's a bit slopey. So if you can move to the next slide, you see on the picture that these are actually, it was a bit, the soiling was a bit difficult, so challenging. So we managed to do that there as well. Thanks very much for your attention. It was a pleasure to participate in this webinar. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks a lot to you, Liam, for the presentation. Super interesting. For the ones interested to know more about the projects in Uganda, for example, or Botswana, of course, we can provide more information after the webinar. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And also, please ask as many questions as you want to Liam, and I'll be happy to redirect them to him. Thank you, Liam. Now I will introduce the next speaker, who is Annette Mumbi. Very nice to have you here. She is the CIO of the member Sawa Energy, operating in East Africa. Again, multiple industries and different projects that Annette will showcase in a minute. So thank you for joining us, Annette, and the floor is yours for the next 8 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Carlos. So my name is Annette Mumbi, and I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Sawa Energy, and I'll walk you through the solutions that we have for commercial and industrial clients. So Sawa is a full-scope renewable energy firm in the C&I space. So what we do is we finance, we build, own and operate solar and battery systems for businesses in Rwanda, Uganda, and Zambia. Now, to date, we have built more than 75 systems across the 3 African countries over the last 5 years, and the number continues to grow. And we've seen that majority of our clients are in sectors such as manufacturing, telecoms, agri-processing, hospitality, that is like hotels and lodges, hospitals in the healthcare sector, and commercial real estate, mining, amongst others. So we've found typically it's small and medium enterprises across these countries. And we've been backed by leading investors such as Electrify, Credit, Responsibility, and a few others who are not yet public. Next slide. Great. So what we found is, and I think the fellow panelists have mentioned the core challenges that businesses face in this market. So in certain cases, power is unreliable, so there's a lot of grid outage, which for a business directly hurts the top line. We've also found that in some cases, in some markets, electricity costs continue to go up, and for clients who use diesel, we know diesel prices are very volatile and have been increasing, and so the challenges are known, but what we found in practice is even if businesses understand they need to go solar, there are certain things that block them from actually being able to build these systems. And first, I'd say is the upfront cost. Second, there's usually concerns on the quality of systems, and third, on maintenance. And I'll walk you through how Sawa has provided solutions for each of these. So first, we'll find that, depending on the size of the project, it could range from like $100,000 to even in some cases $1 million. And because energy for most of these businesses is not their core business, if a business has $1 million, they'd want to use $1 million for their own, internal manufacturing equipment or to just grow their core business. So the upfront cost of putting up a solar or, solar plus battery solution, particularly when you use batteries, is quite high. And so Sawa's solution is that we tell the client that it's a zero upfront cost. As I mentioned earlier, we've raised capital from investors, and so we use that capital to finance the procurement of the equipment and to fund an EPC provider to construct it. Now, next, we've also found clients, tend to have a lot of concerns about the quality of systems. As the markets grow, we've seen cases where, they might hear from their peers that certain systems don't work. But what we do as Sawa is we ensure that our equipment are tier 1 quality, and we also use local experienced builders who can then be able to build specific projects that are suitable for these markets. And then third, we found businesses, concerned about maintenance. You might have had solar panels need cleaning every so often. And if you're buying a system or installing a system that you will own for 20, 25 years, businesses don't want to think about the headache of cleaning, or if the system has an issue, who do you call? And so in our model, what Sawa does is we include an operations and maintenance service within each contract that we have. And so the client pays us for energy as a service. So they pay us monthly, either in a lease payment or in monthly bills, they would pay a utility. And part of that payment that they make to us includes for us a responsibility to provide them operations and maintenance, so we fully take away the headache. Next slide. And one of the things that makes Sawa, there are certain things that make Sawa particularly unique for this market. One is the dedicated capital. So we raised a ton of capital in the last 1 year, which then allows us the capital to be able to deploy many projects. We have a local presence. We have teams in our markets, Uganda, Zambia, Rwanda, which means that we're able to build the trust within the companies and also support these types of businesses. And then thirdly, we have our own custom software. So we've automated the technical and the financial work. So in fact, when we get all the information, we can provide a quote within a day. So sometimes, clients are worried about like, how long is it going to take? We're able to move quite quickly. We have competitive offers for this market, and our systems and software allow us to manage the systems very effectively. Next slide. These are some of our clients. For example, on the top right, there's a biscuit factory in Uganda, which is 300 kilowatt peak. Potato chips factory. We found like a telco company in Rwanda, agri-processors. So like this is just showing some of our clients that are within the sectors I mentioned earlier, and that include the largest banks, telco companies, hospitals, buildings, factories, basically any company that has significant energy needs or requires stable, reliable, and affordable energy to run their businesses. They would be our clients. Next slide. And given that we have a diverse audience, I wanted to share, several ways how you can engage or interact with us. So we have an ambitious goal to provide reliable and affordable energy for about 250 businesses over the next 3 years. We've raised the capital for it, and we'll continue to raise more as we go, but there are certain ways, we can interact. So first, if you're a business or a business that wants to go solar, but they are concerned about the upfront cost, introduce Sawa. Our emails are below, Annette at Sawa Energy or someone at Sawa Energy. Do the introductions, we'd be happy to provide an offer and engage them. And, if you are in a market where you have that network of businesses, you can even be a co-developer and earn from these introductions. Now, secondly, if you're an investor on the call, you're looking for a business within East Africa and Southern Africa that, has impact, is working in the renewable energy space, you want double-digit returns, speak to us. We are happy to add to our list of financiers, so there's an opportunity there for you to fund Sawa. And thirdly, for developers, maybe you're a developer in this market, you have a small portfolio, maybe you would like to sell off some assets in maybe Uganda, Zambia, or Rwanda to move on to bigger markets. Our capital allows us to be able to buy existing systems, and then we will take over the contracts with your clients and continue to manage them with the same high quality service. So we welcome developers who are selling systems, or if you hear any, please refer them to us. This also applies for any developers who are in these markets. Maybe you have a very good decent pipeline, but you're trying to raise financing separately to fund it. We have experience working on partnership agreements with developers where we enter an agreement where we can finance the pipeline with your clients, and then we work together to provide the solution the client needs. So, depending on what seat you're taking in this webinar, we'd be happy to speak. And the one other additional point I'd make is maybe you're a business that already had invested in a solution. Maybe you spent $500,000 on solar and battery solution, but you think that $500,000 could be better spent in your business. We are also buying such systems. So, we sort of do the model with you where we sort of reimburse you the capital that you spent, and then we take over that system for the life of the project so that we can manage it and, handle O&M. And for you in that case, we're able to release some cash that you can use to run the business. So there are various ways you can interact with us. Please take our contacts, and happy to have any Q&A or conversations thereafter. But parting shot is, if you think of SAWA, we provide zero upfront cost solutions for businesses in Uganda, Rwanda, and Zambia. We have capital. That capital allows us to buy existing systems, to build new systems, or to buy systems from developer portfolios. And for investors, we'd be happy to increase the capital that we have raised by partnering with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Annette, and congratulations for the work of SAWA and all your efforts in the sector. Also, good to see your ambition to power 250 businesses in the next few years. So hopefully some of them will be here today with us on the audience. Audience, again, feel free to ask your questions. That's very recommendable and encouraged from ARE side. Now moving to the next speaker of the day, to the next slide as well. That will be Jason Wise. He's the director of TRRC based in South Africa. Also a very well experienced developer in the sector, especially CNI. So it's a pleasure to have you with us today, Jason. And yeah, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for joining us on the call today. I know you've taken a bit of time out of your schedule to get through to you. So just a brief TRRC. Can everybody hear me? Sorry, there's a bit of an echo here.
Yeah, Jason, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Just a brief on TRRC. From our side, who we are. We've been operating in the renewable energy sector for the past 16 years. We've operated in 12 African countries, and over that time, we've managed to complete around 350 commercial sites. So what that's allowed us to do is understand the market quite nicely, which areas we are quite efficient at working, and how we can benefit our clients in those regions. One of the specific things that we do on each time that we set up in a new country is we've set up our operation and maintenance capacity ahead of us doing our installations. So for example, in Zambia, when we moved there in 2021, we redeployed some of our Eswatini engineers and electricians. They went and they established the branch, and they started operating and maintaining systems that were already installed and completed in preparation for our systems to come online. So yeah, creating capacity in these regions is quite important to us. I'll get to it a little bit later, but that's how we build our pipeline, is through referrals. So yeah, so just in the 350 commercial sites that we've completed, we've done about 48 megawatts worth of systems. So they're generally between 300 kilowatts to 5 megawatts. And yeah, it was interesting seeing Liam's comment earlier about Rivonia chilies. It is one of my favorites, that side of the world. So yeah, a little bit spicy, but good chili sauce. Could you go to the next slide? Okay, so since 2010, we typically started installing a lot smaller systems. We started with a lot of residential installations, and by 2015, we stopped doing our residential installations. We had completed around 450 plus residential installations. All of our work that we get is through referral. So we don't do a lot of advertising. We don't do a lot of social media and online presence. We build credibility through delivering good systems in the areas that we operate. And by doing that, we get referred. So typically one of our projects turns into 5 projects. So we don't really have to hunt for work. But the exciting thing is that as we enter into the new markets that we are looking for partners and opportunities where our fit in the business can work quite well. So our skill set, over the last 16 years has just been to be consistently good. And as the market's changed over time, it's allowed us to obviously understand where the client's needs have also changed. It might have been off-grid scenarios, and it's now moved more into cost saving, for example, in South Africa, where power is quite expensive during the winter period. Next slide. So I'm sure a lot of people on the board at the moment or on this call would agree, especially if you've watched this energy transition over the last couple of years. There's been a lot of new players that have joined the market. So in 2022, there was load shedding in South Africa, where we had mass blackouts half the day. I mean, Zambia was very aware of it last year and the year before, where power was really more off than it was on. And what that did is it created a spike in the new installers that joined the industry. And one of the core beliefs that I have in this industry is that collaboration is way better than competition. So although we are all competing for work in the industry and the market, I think collaboration works a lot better in generating a long-term strategy for everybody. So in 2022, I would say the installers in South Africa went up by tenfold. And what they did is it created a optic for our customers that solar is the logical way to go. Previous to that, it might have been seen as a luxury, or it might have been seen as unreliable. But post that, even the good and the bad systems that were installed during that time, it just changed how people felt about energy, which then made it a hell of a lot easier for us to sell energy into the market. I believe the same thing's happening in Zambia at the moment. The climate for working or installations in Zambia is becoming easier to turn over the opportunities, as opposed to 4 years ago when we would really have to do deep dives and almost get married into the deal or into the family just to be able to do the deal. So I just wanted to touch base on some of the market changes that have happened. But being part of this journey over the times, we've seen the different technologies change, as well as the different requirement from our customers. So we've got to be ever evolving in our role in this business. Carlos, can you do the next slide there? Okay, so the slogan at the top there is actually not the greatest, but it says, don't be scared of Africa. So TRC's been to more than 19 African countries. We completed a nice project in Mali last year. We've got really good technicians in our organization that get trained to do these projects, to deliver them. We do all our own operation and maintenance, and we aren't scared to go to places where the need for energy isn't completely available. We do believe quite strongly in upskilling local ability. For example, in 2017, we did 87 hospitals in Malawi, and most of them were health centers, pediatric centers, burn victim units. And what we did is trained up local electricians to do the operation and maintenance, worked with them for a year, and then handed over the preventative maintenance over time. So they were then able to maintain those sites. Sorry, guys. They were able to maintain those sites. Today, I would say more than 85% of those systems are still in operation. A lot of them had to have been upgraded on batteries, because at that stage, a lot of it was lead acid. But that sort of scenario. So in our portfolio, we've got operations in Botswana, Zambia, Eswatini, and South Africa. That's a full-time presence with teams on the ground, engineering capacity. Our specialty is doing the engineering, procurement, design, and then the after-sales management of the sites. Out of the 350 commercial sites we have in our group, we manage around 230 of them still today. And in Zambia, for example, we're busy with around 9 new projects, half of them funded. Now that funding is a little bit more easier. And yes, we did see some interesting examples of funding, so we'll make contact after this. But yeah, from our side, we do offer funded solutions. We do offer carbon credit vetting. So in South Africa and Eswatini, we're busy with carbon credit programs that we can verify credits through specific programs and generate additional income for your solar plant. Perfect. Next slide. What we're looking for in the market, it's an interesting one. We don't advertise a lot, and it seems like we don't really need the work. But what we really want to do is look for work that is a good fit for both the client as well as us. And that normally means it's one of the harder jobs that are there to be deployed. So it might be a small island off of Uganda. It might be a group in Mali. It might be one of those scenarios that requires something specific. We've a group of 48 individuals, range from engineers, technical teams, and then after sales specialists, that we put together strategies for the gaps in the market where they're not specifically rollout driven, and they might be too big or too small for the bigger guys and too big for the smaller guys. So we've got an interesting fit in the market, but always looking for good opportunity for that fit. So if anybody on the call is seeing some synergies, and I'll share some of the portfolios afterwards. I've got a nice video of what we're doing with schools and so on. Our focus over the last 3 or 4 years has been predominantly in dairy farms and poultry farms. We've done more than 65 different poultry farms across the 6 different countries. Yeah, gonna wrap it up. And then just the last slide, we will share it. It's just who we are. We are more than an EPC. We believe strongly in collaboration. So look forward to joining forces with some of the guys that are on the call with me or alongside me, and meeting a couple of the clients or opportunities. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Super interesting. I subscribe your words about the importance of partnerships, even though there's some competition. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you will find relevant potential collaborators among the community. So thanks a lot for that. And yeah, audience, please make sure you ask your questions to Jason using the GoToWebinar platform. So thanks, Jason. Now moving to the last speaker of the day, I have the pleasure of inviting Insala, if we can go to the next slide, representing Upia Technologies. So she's the communications manager, and yeah, a bit of a different profile in this case as a software provider, but also very connected to CNI. So thank you, Insala, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, and thank you to the diverse range of speakers. The benefit of being the last speaker is that I get to visualize avenues for collaborations among us, so please do not forget to send a message. I'm here to welcome our head of sales, who will be gracious enough to answer every question at the end of this session. Quickly, we are a field digitalization platform, and today I want to walk you through something we see across the CNI solar sector, which is companies that are scaling their megawatts, but they are yet to scale the operations behind them. The gap is where we live, so let's get into it. Next slide, please. So at our core, Upia is an all-in-one distribution and field management systems. We help companies manage their customers, field teams, processes, payment, all from one place. The goal is simple. As your portfolio grows, your operations shouldn't become harder to manage. They should become very efficient. Next slide. So, oh, okay. A quick, no, I don't think this is the next slide. Can you go back? Oh, okay. I'll just go through it. So a quick snapshot of where we are today. We operate across 20 plus countries spanning Africa, Latin America, and Asia. Our clients collectively manage over 100,000 new customer registration every month. And we have 8,000 plus mobile app users active daily, and over 3 million payments are processed every year on our platforms. So we've seen over 50% year-on-year client growth, which tells us that the problem we're solving is very rare, and is very real rather, and also very common. So The future overviews. Now, our platform covers the full operational stack. So we have from customer management, agent management and commissions, inventory, data collection, ticketing system, workflow automation, territory and partner management, analytics, I mean the whole 9 yards. I will walk you through the most relevant of this for CNI Solar in a moment, but I want you to see the breadth first, that this isn't a point solution, but it's built to run your entire operations. Next slide. So let's see the context of CNI in sub-Saharan Africa. Well, CNI rooftop solar in sub-Saharan Africa is growing fast and for very good reasons. It offers low electricity costs compared to grid tariffs and better reliability in markets with frequent outage, reduced independence on diesel, and increasingly flexible financing structures. Now, the adoption across that we see right now is happening across factories, across shopping centers, across telecom towers and healthcare, and a whole lot of others. The demand is there. The question is whether operations. Next one, please. So I will be talking about operational complexities. Here's exactly where things break down. You know, scaling a CNI solar business means coordinating people, coordinating customers, sales reps, technicians. It also means tracking assets, from panels to inverters to batteries and a whole lot. And it also means running processes. So sales processes, site surveys, installation, maintenance, and a whole of other things. Now, most companies are trying to hold on all of that together with spreadsheets, emails, and sometimes WhatsApp. And the result is predictable. You will have slow hands-offs between teams, inventory going untracked across different distribution sites, and no single view of where teams or jobs stand. And that also leads to inconsistent customer experience because there's no standardized process. So every customer just experiences something differently. Next slide. So where does digitalization make the biggest difference? We've identified 4 areas. First is the sales funnel management, getting visibility from lead qualification and site survey all the way through contract signature. Also field operations, where you have to coordinate technicians and site visit across your different locations. We also have the workflow automation, where you have standardizing handoffs between teams so nothing falls through the cracks. And then we also have inventory and parts management, because it's important to know where every piece of equipment is from warehouse to customer site and back. So I will walk you through each of these quickly. Next slide. So starting with the sales funnel in CNI Solar, the acquisition journey is complex. You are qualifying leads, you are collecting KYC data, you are running site assessment, and getting proposals being approved. Now, Opia lets you define each step of that journey and track customers as they move through it. So you get personalized qualification flows, data collection built into your process, analytics on conversion and individual agent performance dashboards, and your sales team has a focused, structured interface rather than chasing activity across multiple tools. Next slide. So for field operations, the challenge is coordination across a dispersed workforce. Now, Opia ticketing system lets admin or field staff create tasks and tickets, and they embed checklists and data collection directly into the job. So nothing is left to memory or WhatsApp or someone who is old and used to the process who has to be called upon to always give an idea of what the checklist is supposed to be to look like. Now, on the agent tracking side, everything your staff does is logged. So you have geo mapping activity, you have activity logs, you have KPI dashboard, and a dedicated mobile app so that agents can work offline and then they synchronize when they are connected. So you always know where your teams are and what's going on. Next slide, please. So for workflow automation, this is where the real efficiency gains come from. You can connect tasks and tickets and replicate your exact process inside one platform. You can also set rules, that will trigger, process it automatically, and you can automate steps that are based on status change. So you can have something like validated, pending, and rejected. And when that is triggered, a series of events also go through. And the goal is that your team stops managing the process and the platform manages it for them. So your business is working even when you go to sleep. Next slide, please. So lastly, inventory and parts management in C&I Solar is a persistent pain point. Equipment move between warehouse, between vehicles, between sites and customers, and parts eventually get lost sometimes. Defective units even sometimes don't get flagged down, and repossessions are hardly tracked. Upia gives you full asset ownership tracking. So we're talking about device location, parts management, effective unit processing, and a complete history of every event linked to a particular asset. So from the warehouse to the customer and back, you always know who holds what. So if you're scaling your C&I portfolio and your operations are starting to feel like a bottleneck, this is exactly what we are built for. And we would love to show you what that looks like in practice. So you can book a free 30-minute demo at chat.upia.io. You can also visit our website, so you'll have a look at it. Next slide, please. We will walk you through specific workflows and show you how the platform will fit your required needs. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about Upia today, and I look forward to clearing any doubts and answering your questions very soon. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you, Ansala. Perfect timing. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah, super interesting to see the platform. If I had a business, I would definitely be a customer of Upia. So thank you for presenting it. Now we will jump into the Q&A session. So this is your last opportunity, dear audience, to ask your questions. So please do not hesitate to write on the Q&A chat. May I invite all the speakers to turn on your cameras, and I will be redirecting you some questions. We don't have much time, unfortunately, so please try to be brief with your answers. In case we have even more answers pending, even more questions pending, we can take them on the chat. Yeah, so we will follow the same order. So the first one would be for Robert. Robert, yeah, I see that you're turning on your camera. The question says, well, it's two small questions. First says, do you have operational projects in Sub-Saharan Africa? Second, what's the minimum load threshold that you would consider?
Thank you, Carlos, and my apologies on the camera. For some reason, the internet doesn't work in this one spot, so I'm having to move around here. So we do not have any operational systems yet in Sub-Saharan Africa. However, that is a very key market for us. We currently have about 400 megawatts of projects at various stages of development. I have biz dev managers in Harare and Johannesburg, and probably about 85% of those projects are in the mining sector today. I would say that our minimum project size is going to be that single module that I referenced earlier, so roughly 3 megawatts electric and 4.5 megawatts thermal. You know, happy to chat about our activities in Africa in more detail with anybody that might be interested. I would also reference that he just moved on for a new opportunity. It's a great one for him, but I also had somebody in Cote d'Ivoire. So Africa is a very critical focus for us, and where we're heavily focused on developing partnerships, and both on the technical and the financial side of the ledger.
Thank you, Robert. And also, if you could answer just in 15 seconds, another person asked, is lease to own an option? Just a very...
I'm sorry?
Question. Another person asked,
Carlos,
is lease to own an option?
I'm not picking up the second word. Is what an option?
Lease to own. For the ownership.
Oh, lease to own. Sorry,
Yes,
lease to own. I mean, we're open to other financial models. I somewhat struggle on how that would make financial sense for the customer. I will say that in our power purchase agreements, there's always a buyout option for the customer that can be written into the agreement, and I suspect the economics would work out better for the customer than a lease arrangement would. But that's certainly something we could discuss offline if there's a specific project opportunity. We'd have to work through the details, but I suspect it would probably just be building in a buyout provision into the PPA.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Next question is for Naim. So one person asked, as you move into CNI, how does your credit risk assessment and payment structure change when the off-taker is a private business rather than an NGO or a health ministry, for example?
Yeah, this is a good question. In general, like we are financially stable as we are part of big group operating in Norway. So what we are doing is not the only business that we have within the group. And there are a lot of, you can say, financial analysis that we do in collaboration with the customers, especially for the countries where we are operating and we have good presence like Malawi, Kenya, and other countries. Also, we have financing partners for the solutions that we provide with financing options like lease, PPA, and other options. It's not only EPC.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Naim. There's another short question, both for Sawa and Grips. Somebody wants to know what is the cost structure of the solar system. Maybe Liam, if you want to go first.
Yeah, thanks very much. So the question is around the cost structure
of the solar systems.
I think generally speaking, we always kind of provide the lease or like monthly installment based on the EPC pricing. And then, of course, the savings, they depend largely on the EPC and on the O&M cost, but also, of course, of the tenure of the project and if there is any down payment or not. So, of course, you would have considerably more savings on a 20-year contract. And during that period, of course, also peace of mind compared to a 10-year contract because you would need to repay the system within the same periods.
Understood. Thank you, Liam. Annette, the same question goes to you.
Yeah, it's quite similar. So the cost, I'm assuming he means the cost of the client base. So the cost of the client base varies depending on the type of project, whether it's solar only or solar and battery. And like Liam said as well, the tenor matters, and yeah, like whether the client has made a deposit before or not.
Okay, thank you, Annette. Now a question to Jason. So yeah, somebody wants to know what battery chemistry and suppliers are you standardizing on, since battery storage is listed as a core offering? Jason, can you hear me? He might be having some issue with the connection, so we might jump to Upia and leave that for later. There's a question that says, if a CNA operator, this is for you and Salah, if a CNA operator builds years of customers, asset, and field history inside Upia, and later wants to switch platforms or integrate it with their own ERP, is it easy to export data in full? Thank you.
Our platform offers like really good data collection, and if you want to move, you can easily move your data. And we also offer integration. So if you're looking to integrate with some other things, like we use APIs. So if you're looking to do some integrations, we also do that. So definitely exporting your data out of our system will not be a problem.
Understood. Thank you. Yeah, there's one question left for Jason, but we are running out of time. We might respond it by email. So Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have reached the end of this webinar. So thanks all the speakers for your participation. It's been an incredible webinar of experts. So thank you very much for that. Also to the audience for your patient listening, and also for your participation. It's been very good, and we will share your contacts with the speakers that received the questions so you can follow up then independently. Also, thanks to my organizing team, thanks Ling, and thanks Okan as well for your support. And if we can go to the next slide, one more. Yeah, we invite you to connect with us again in the next edition of I4E that will take place on 3 of September, and the topic will be battery and energy storage systems. So thank you, dear panelists, for your participation, and you will receive a report on all the interesting data. Thank you, and have a good day ahead.